Rescued by my Navy SEAL bad boy, a bad boy, baby daddy romance. Alex and Maddison's story continues. Written by Niki Shaw, audio and video copyright 2025. Chapter 1. Maddison. I can't believe I get paid to do this. Here I am, in the heart of Costa Rica's Braulio Carrillo National Park, a stone's throw from San Jose, and I'm living my best life. The dense jungle hums, a cacophony of chirps, calls, and rustling leaves, and I'm right in the thick of it, camera in hand, capturing the magic for National Geographic. My technique? It's all about patience and respect. I move slowly, letting the jungle reveal its secrets to me. Today I'm using a 400mm lens to get those close-up shots without disturbing the wildlife. The humidity clings to my skin, but it's a small price to pay for the opportunity to document this incredible ecosystem. A flash of color catches my eye, and I spot a resplendent quetzal perched high in the canopy. Its iridescent feathers shimmer in the dappled sunlight, a vibrant contrast against the verdant backdrop. I adjust my focus, holding my breath as I snap the shot. Perfect. Further along the trail, a troop of howler monkeys makes its presence known with their deep, guttural calls. I smile, watching them swing effortlessly from branch to branch, their prehensile tails providing a fifth limb. I capture a young one clinging to its mother, its curious eyes staring directly into my lens. As I push deeper into the jungle, I come across a small clearing where a pair of red-eyed tree frogs are engaged in a delicate dance. Their bright green bodies and striking red eyes make them the perfect subject. I crouch low, adjusting my settings to account for the low light. The frogs remain oblivious to my presence, too engrossed in their nightly ritual. A sudden rustle in the underbrush draws my attention, and I freeze. Slowly, I raise my camera, ready for whatever might emerge. A jaguarundi, sleek and stealthy, steps into the open. Its tawny coat blends seamlessly with the surrounding foliage. I manage to capture a few shots before it slips back into the shadows, a fleeting glimpse of the jungle's elusive predator. As I move further into the dense foliage, time becomes a blur. It's easy to lose track of where I am when I'm in the zone, completely absorbed by the wonders of the jungle. Each step brings new surprises, and I'm utterly captivated by the rich tapestry of life around me. Suddenly, I catch sight of something extraordinary, a Baird's tapir, one of the rarest animals in Central America. My heart races as I carefully approach, mindful of every step to avoid startling the magnificent creature. The tapir's distinctive black and white markings stand out against the greenery, making it a perfect subject for my next shot. I inch closer, camera ready, but as I focus on the tapir, a strange sight catches my eye in the distance. Squinting through the trees, I see what appears to be a work camp. Only something feels off. These workers are carrying guns, not tools. My pulse quickens, and a chill runs down my spine. Crouching low, I use the cover of the underbrush to observe them without being seen. This isn't your typical jungle exploration anymore. I take a few cautious steps back, debating whether to investigate further or retreat to safety. The tapir forgotten, my instincts tell me I'm onto something far more dangerous than I anticipated. Creeping closer to the camp, every instinct screams at me to turn back, to not push my luck any further. I mean, really, the smart part of me knows I should hightail it out of here while I still can, before any of these guys spot me. Yet the photographer in me, the one who lives for the shot, the story, whispers that these are the kind of images that make careers, the kind that people can't look away from. Let's be real, I mutter to myself as I inch closer, camera in hand. If these guys are wandering around with guns in what's supposed to be a work camp, they're definitely up to no good. My voice is barely a whisper, blending with the rustle of leaves and distant animal calls. It might even help take some bad guys down if I can hand this over to the authorities. A win for justice and a win for Maddison Hartley, photojournalist extraordinaire. I edge closer, my heart pounding in my ears, blending with the distant sounds of the jungle. Finally, I find the perfect spot, a hidden nook with a clear view of their activities, shielded by thick foliage. I set my camera back up, carefully adjusting the lens to its maximum zoom. Peering through the viewfinder, I steady my breathing, ready to capture whatever might unfold. This could be big, really big, I whisper to myself. my heart pounding louder with anticipation and a touch of fear. As I peer through my camera, the scene unfolding in front of me sends a chill down my spine. The men are not just armed, they're heavily armed, decked out with assault rifles and tactical gear that you'd see in a war zone, not a remote jungle camp. This place is fortified, more akin to a mini fortress than any work camp I've ever heard of. I quietly adjust my position, snapping pictures as I count the men bustling around. There are dozens of them, and those are just the ones in plain sight. The shutter of my camera clicks rapidly, capturing every detail, every face. This isn't just risky, it's borderline insane, but the journalist in me can't turn away. Not now. I shift my focus to the buildings. Zooming in further, my lens finds a window through which I can see inside. My breath catches as the image sharpens. It's worse than I feared. Inside, a grim tableau, guards overseeing a group of people who are handling large quantities of a white powder. Something tells me they're not baking cakes in there, I whisper to myself. The reality of the situation sinking in. The setup screams drug manufacturing, and the weary, downtrodden expressions of those inside don't look like those of willing participants. They could very well be prisoners or trafficked labor. This is big. It's the kind of evidence that could blow the lid off a major operation. My fingers are steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through me, as I capture image after image. Each photo is a potential key to dismantling this entire operation. If I can just get out of here with them. After I'm confident I've captured enough damning evidence, I'm about to pack up when a new figure emerges from the largest building, changing the stakes of this already dangerous game. He's an imposing sight, tall and muscular with a shaved head, except for a small, defiant mohawk. His arms, thick and inked with tattoos that tell more stories than I want to know, catch the sunlight as he steps out, flanked by a small entourage of guards. He moves with an air of authority, and it's clear he's someone of importance here. I watch through. My lens as he storms over to one of the other guards, his voice booming even though I can't make out the words. The tension among the men spikes. The guards quickly pat down the unfortunate soul, pulling out packets of white powder. Oh no, I say to myself. The leader's response is swift and brutal. He shoves the man to his knees behind some crates, out of my direct line of sight. The atmosphere is thick with fear and anticipation. He pulls out a gun, and even though I can't see them clearly now, the echoing bang leaves no room for doubt about the man's fate. I want to scream, and I do, a little. Luckily, I manage to clamp my hand over my mouth before I draw attention to myself. This is my cue, no question about it. Time to make my exit, and fast. With my heart slamming against my ribs, I carefully retract my camera, easing back with every ounce of stealth I can muster. As I make my escape, my foot catches on a branch, snapping it with a sound that pierces the relative quiet of the jungle. My stomach drops as the noise sets off a calamitous chain reaction. A larger branch above me groans under the disturbance, finally breaking free and crashing down with a thunderous sound. Perfect, just perfect, Maddison, I mutter, cursing my bad luck. Peeking through my camera's viewfinder, I see the guards are now on high alert, their heads swiveling towards the source of the noise, towards me. Great, now you've done it, I whisper under my breath, my heart pounding like it's trying to escape my chest. With no time to waste, I slip through the underbrush, my movements as hurried and silent as possible. Reaching the spot where I parked my motorcycle, I practically throw myself onto it, slamming the helmet on my head. The engine roars to life under my urgent hands, and I don't look back as I kick it into gear. Dirt and leaves fly up behind me as I tear through the jungle, the adrenaline surging through my veins, blending with fear and the thrill of the escape. Soon, I burst onto the road leading back to San Rafael, the small town on the outskirts of San Jose, where I've been staying. As the familiar landmarks start to come into view, I allow myself a shallow breath of relief. Pulling into the driveway of the humble apartment building where I'm staying, a wave of relief washes over me. It seems like I haven't been followed. The thrill of the chase, that razor-edge dance with danger, it's part of why I love this job so much, even when it scares the hell out of me. I park the bike and head up to my apartment. It's nothing fancy, but it's comfortable and feels like a sanctuary right now. The place is simple, a functional kitchenette on one side, a cozy living area, and a small bedroom. But it's the views that really make it feel like home. One window offers a sweeping vista of San Jose, Costa Rica, and the city lights twinkling in the distance as dusk falls. The other window looks out over the lush, endless green of the jungle. I slip the memory card out of my camera and slot it into my computer, eager to upload the fruits of my perilous labor. But of course, the connection indicator just blinks mockingly back at me. No service. I remember the reception here is notoriously spotty, a constant frustration. Resigned, I decide to head into San Jose tomorrow to upload the photos. For tonight, laying low is my best bet. I take the memory card out again and approach my makeshift safe. I unscrew the top of one of the bedposts, an ingenious little hiding spot I rigged up when I first arrived. Ever since that fiasco in Kathmandu, where I came back to my room only to find it ransacked, nearly everything stolen, including some irreplaceable shots, I've been extra cautious. It was a hard lesson, but it taught me to protect the essentials, like my hard drives and memory cards, with a bit more ingenuity. Still riding the high from today's escapade, I decide it's only right to toast to my own daredevil spirit. I change into something a tad more comfortable and make a beeline for the bustling taqueria just around the corner. It's my unofficial decompression chamber after long days like this one. I stroll up to the counter where Manuel, the ever-smiling guy who's memorized my order by now, greets me with a nod. "Another day of adventures, Maddison," he teases, sliding a frosty imperial across the counter. "Always," I reply with a grin. Scooping up my beer, I lean in, lowering my voice a touch. "Manuel, I have a question." I start, my tone casual but curious. "Do you know anything about illegal activities in the jungle? Dangerous stuff, maybe?" His easy smile fades, replaced by a momentary flash of fear in his eyes. He leans closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Chica, it's better if you stay away from that. It's dangerous, very dangerous. The jungle has secrets you don't want to find." I nod. "Gracias. Just professional curiosity," I assure him, raising my beer in a half-toast. "Be careful with your curiosity. It can be more dangerous than the serpients in the forest," he warns, his tone soft but stern. Once I'm back in my apartment, full and slightly buzzed, I settle in front of my computer for a quick photo review. The day's shots look fantastic, each one a potential headline maker. But as the adrenaline wears off, curiosity, or maybe it's nostalgia, gets the better of me. I click on another folder, almost like I'm opening Pandora's box. There it is, Alex and me. Flipping through these photos, every laugh and adventure we shared jumps off the screen, pulling at something deep inside me. As I soak in the images, a mix of warmth and a twinge of what the hell happened washes over me. Here I am, halfway across the world, still trying to piece together the puzzle of us. What went down with us, Alex? Part of me chuckles, knowing well that some questions are better left unasked. But hey, old habits die hard. I close out of the pictures and hope the spotty connection at least let some emails through earlier. Bingo, a fresh batch has loaded up. Among the usual clutter, there's an email from my parents. They've been keeping me updated on life back in the States, and today they've attached pictures of Patrick, my 4-month-old heartbreaker. As soon as I open the files, my heart just melts. There he is, looking every bit like his dad with each new photo. Seeing his bright little eyes and that infectious baby grin makes the distance between us feel even more immense. I trace the image on the screen with a finger, a smile spreading across my face. I can't wait to be back, to hold him, to see up close how he's changed. Scrolling down, there's a postscript from my dad that catches my eye, his words typed out with his usual no-nonsense clarity. "P.S. Maddie, please find a moment to speak to Alex sooner rather than later about Patrick. I know it won't be an easy conversation, but he needs to know that the child is his. We've kept this a secret for too long, and it's not just about us. It's about what's right for Patrick, too. It's a heavy burden, and you shouldn't carry it alone. Love, Dad." I start tapping out a response to Dad, my fingers flying across the keyboard with a mind of their own. "Dad, I know I've got to tell him. And believe me, I've been more than ready to let it all out. It's not like I enjoy keeping secrets. But Alex, The guy's been hopping from one mission to another like some kind of action hero on a movie marathon. There hasn't been a single chance to have that all-important chat. But as I reread what I've written, my heart rate picks up, and I can feel my frustration turning into something else. Fear. I delete the draft. Who am I kidding? It's not just about his unending missions. I'm downright terrified of seeing Alex again. Our last goodbye was bittersweet, a deep conversation, both of us coming to the conclusion that even though we love each other, we are both too married to our jobs. Neither of us was willing to back down then, and who's to say anything's changed? I slammed the laptop shut, a little harder than I intended. I'm scared, all right, scared of his reaction, scared of digging up all those old feelings, scared that maybe, just maybe, his career would be more important than his son. But there it is, the truth sitting in my chest, heavy as lead. It's not about timing or opportunities. It's about mustering the guts to face him and whatever comes next. I turn my thoughts to Patrick, letting my love for my little guy warm my heart. Once I've calmed down a bit, I change into my PJs, feeling a mix of homesickness and contentment. I shut down my computer properly, click off the light, and slide under the covers. My mind is still buzzing with today's adventures and the images of Patrick, but exhaustion takes over quickly. Within moments, I drift off to sleep, dreams of home and my little man carrying me through the night. I'm ripped from sleep by a sudden clatter, a sound stark against the silence of the night. Darkness cloaks my apartment like a thick blanket. Heart hammering, I slip out of bed. The cool floor under my feet as I tiptoe toward the living room. I don't even make it to the light switch before the lights flash on, blinding me for a second. My breath catches in my throat as my eyes adjust and focus on a chilling sight. 3 men, all armed, lounging in my space as if they own it. One face jumps out at me immediately. The cold, hard features of the man I saw execute the guard earlier today in the jungle. His voice slices through the tension, thick with an accent and dripping with mockery. It seems this American kitten got a little too curious for her own good. And what's the saying in English? Curiosity killed the cat, my gatita. Before I can muster a retort, the 2 goons beside him are on me. One slams a hand over my mouth, pressing a chemical-soaked cloth against my face. Panic surges as my world starts to tilt, my limbs going heavy and my head spinning out of control. I try to fight, to kick, to push away the darkness creeping in at the edges of my vision. But it's like wrestling with shadows. Then, everything fades to black.
Chapter 2. Alex. Radar, if you add any more weight to that bar, it's going to need its own zip code, I shout over the pulsing beat of 7-nation army filling the gym. Austin grins and claps me on the shoulder, obviously pleased with himself. Just because you can't believe I'm going to put up this much weight doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Tristan, or Cracker as we like to call him because of his knack for cracking jokes, just as well as codes, chimes in from the squat rack. Let him be, MacGyver. Maybe he's prepping to lift his ego. Laughter erupts around the room, bouncing off the walls of the base gym where we've gathered for our usual Saturday morning torture session. Jamie is adjusting his glasses as he sets up his next lift. Just remember, brains over brawn, boys. You might want to try it sometime, he quips, earning a chorus of mock boos. Yeah, I retort, securing the weights on my bar. Keep talking, Professor. We'll see who's left standing. The camaraderie here is thick enough to cut with a knife, and the friendly ribbing is as much a part of our routine as the weights we're lifting. Friends like these, they're not just buddies, they're brothers. All right, geniuses, I say, stepping up to my barbell. Last one to finish their set buys the first round tonight. As Jamie locks out the final rep of his bench press, smashing his personal record, I can't help but be impressed. Not bad, Professor, I grunt, giving him a nod of respect as he racks the weight and sits up, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Thanks, Mac, Jamie breathes out, still catching his breath. He grabs his water bottle, taking a long drink before glancing over at me with a more serious expression. So, how's Maddison doing these days? I heard she's got some big projects coming up. Chase Anthony, or Mini-Me as we call him, for his knack of thinking and acting just like me, comes back in from the locker room and lets out a groan. Come on, man. You just had to bring her up, didn't you? Just trying to make conversation, Jamie retorts. The mention of her name sends a familiar twinge through my gut. Maddison. The lines between us have blurred over time, leaving me uncertain if former really applies to what we are, or were. I mask the sudden tightness in my chest with a shrug. Yeah, she's keeping busy. Tristan overhears and joins in, his tone earnest. Man, you should really think about giving it another shot with her. You two always had something. I pause, the weight of his words hanging between us. Rekindling things with Maddison isn't something I can dive into lightly. It's complicated, Cracker, I reply slowly, the barbell in my hands feeling less substantial than the weight of my thoughts. Not sure if going back is the right move. Tristan nods, understanding the unspoken tension. Just saying, sometimes the complicated things are worth figuring out. Chase finishes his set and racks his squat weight, wiping the sweat from his forehead with a thick gym towel. He glances at me, his expression curious, bordering on concerned. I still don't get what the hell happened between you two, he says, his voice echoing slightly in the gym. 1 minute, you're with her in Australia. The next, you're back here acting like the whole thing never happened. I set down my weights, a slight clatter filling the brief silence. Finding the right words feels like navigating a minefield. It's not that simple, I start, my voice low. Things just evolved differently. She got really into her job, and I got tied up with mine. We had fun, sure, but it was like neither of us had the guts to actually say how we felt, to take things to the next level. I pause, the barbell in my grip no longer the heaviest thing I'm holding on to. The thought crosses my mind, unbidden and unwelcome, that maybe she just didn't feel the same way about me. It's a possibility that's harder to lift than any weight in this gym. The idea sits heavy in my stomach, a nagging doubt that perhaps what we had wasn't as deep for her as it was for me. Austin nods slowly, apparently understanding the unspoken depth of my turmoil. Relationships are tough, man, he offers. Tristan smirks, wiping down his weights as he throws out a suggestion that cuts a little too deep. Maybe it's time to put all that behind you, man. Get back out there, start dating again. The idea hits me like a cold splash of water. I wince, more at the thought than anything else. I haven't dated since Maddison, and while I don't voice this next part to the guys, the truth is, I don't really want to. Women have never been a problem for me. I've never struggled to catch their interest, but there was something about Mads, something that still grips me, something I can't shake off, and if I'm honest, something I don't want to shake off. Subject's closed, fellas, I say with a forced chuckle, masking the churn of emotions inside. I stride over to the treadmill, setting it up with a few sharp taps. As I start my run, the steady rhythm of my feet pounding the belt gives me a moment to think. The easy banter and teasing from the weights area fades into the background, replaced by the focused beat of my own resolve. I know the guys mean well, but some paths, you just have to walk alone, at least for a while, and right now it feels like I'm not ready to walk away from what Maddison and I had. Not yet. The treadmill hums beneath me, but my mind is miles away, reliving a particularly unforgettable night with Maddison. Those memories flood back with vivid intensity. Her perfume, her body pressing eagerly against mine, the fire in her eyes that said she wanted me just as much as I wanted her. We stumbled into the room, laughter echoing in the air, fueled by the adrenaline of the night. The second the door clicked shut, I had her pinned against the wall, feeling her melt against me, a perfect fit. Her dress slipped off her shoulders effortlessly, leaving her exposed, and I couldn't help but drink her in. God, you're stunning, I murmured, my voice thick with desire as I traced the curves of her body with my hands, mapping every inch like it was mine to claim. You're not so bad yourself, soldier boy, she replied, a twinkle in those gorgeous eyes. She pushed me onto the bed, straddling me with a boldness that sent a jolt of anticipation through my veins. Her hair cascaded around us like a curtain as she kissed me, her lips both demanding and yielding. It was like she wanted to consume me, and damn, I was more than willing to let her. I flipped her onto her back, taking control, watching the way her eyes lit up with excitement as I explored her body, fingers dancing over her skin, igniting sparks everywhere I touched. Her soft gasps and moans were music to my ears as I buried myself inside her, feeling her warmth surround me. We moved together in perfect harmony, her hips meeting mine with an urgency that drove us both wild. Her nails raked down my back, a sweet sting that only fueled my need to take her harder. Her breathless cries spurred me on, every gasp and whimper urging me to give her everything I had. "Tell me what you want, Mads," I growled, watching her face contort with pleasure as I drove deeper. Her eyes locked onto mine, filled with a mix of desperation and desire. "I want you, Alex. All of you," she gasped, her voice a breathy command that sent a shiver down my spine. I watched her come undone beneath me, her body arching as she shattered, her cries echoing in the room, her release bringing me right to the edge. Holding her tight, I followed her into oblivion, feeling every ounce of tension drain away as I gave in to the overwhelming pleasure. As the memory fades, the treadmill's steady beat pulls me back to the present, but the longing remains, a sharp reminder of what we had and why I'm not ready to let it go. Some things are worth holding on to, even if they hurt like hell. Snapping out of my reverie, the sight in front of me hauls me fully back to the present. Admiral Patrick Duffy strides into the gym, his presence as imposing as a storm rolling over the ocean. Flanked by two Marines, he moves with the assurance of a man who's commanded respect his entire career. The Admiral is built like a brick wall, his physique hard and imposing despite his advancing years. Every inch of him speaks to a life dedicated to military discipline. As he walks in, I force my thoughts away from the unwelcome fantasies about his daughter. It's not the time or place, and definitely not the right headspace for when dealing with her father. We kill the music and cut off our workouts instantly. The clanging of weights settles as we form up, standing at attention in a line across the gym. The atmosphere tenses, charged with a mixture of respect and anticipation. Admiral Duffy surveys us, his gaze sharp and assessing. He doesn't say a word initially, letting his eyes do the talking as they move from one man to the next. His expression is unreadable, but the set of his jaw and the slight narrowing of his eyes suggest he's here for more than just a casual visit. The silence stretches, heavy with expectation, as we wait for him to speak. Admiral Duffy's inspection of us is meticulous, his eyes pausing slightly longer on me than the others. There's a hint of something unreadable in his gaze, a flicker of scrutiny, or perhaps knowledge, that sends a shiver of unease down my spine. I can't help but wonder if it has anything to do with Maddison or with what happened between us. The thought tenses my muscles, readying me for any reprimand that might spill from him next. Instead, Duffy clears his throat, the sound sharp in the tense silence of the gym. "Gentlemen," he begins, his voice as commanding as ever, "I have a mission, and I need my best SEAL team for the job." We exchange quick glances, curiosity mingling with the sudden spike of adrenaline. Missions aren't uncommon, but there's something in Duffy's tone that suggests this isn't just any operation. The Admiral takes a deep, slow breath, steeling himself before he continues. "It's a rescue mission," he says, his eyes locking onto each of ours in turn, assessing our reactions. "It's to bring back my daughter." The words hit like a punch to the gut. Oh shit.
Chapter 3. Maddison. We busted through the door of our suite, overlooking Darling Harbor, laughing like kids who just pulled the ultimate prank. The view was spectacular, with the shimmering lights of Sydney's skyline and the bustling harbor spread out below us, but it barely registered. There was only one view I cared about, the man in front of me, Alex. He loomed like he'd just stepped off a movie set, a sexy Navy SEAL with a body that could make angels weep. We're both tipsy. Okay, more than a little tipsy, but I was clear-headed enough to know exactly what I wanted, and that was him. "Are you sure about this?" Alex asked, his eyes locking onto mine, a mix of heat and sincerity in his gaze. "You seem a little drunk, gorgeous." "Hell yes," I replied, my voice laced with both sass and certainty. I reached for him, pulling him close until there was no space left between us, just heat and the promise of what was to come. "And you seem more than a little drunk, cowboy." We made quick work of our clothes, tossing them aside like they've offended us. I took a moment to admire him in the dim light of the room. Damn, he was something else. His body was a work of art. Broad shoulders that could carry the world, arms corded with muscle from years of training, and abs so defined they looked like they were carved from stone. There was an air of danger and discipline about him, and it's a potent combination that made my heart race. I let my fingers trail over his skin, exploring the hard planes and ridges, feeling the heat that radiates from him. There's a tattoo on his bicep, something I'd traced a million times with my fingertips and tongue, a reminder of who he was and what he stood for. "You're staring," he teases, a smirk tugging at his lips as he caught me ogling him. "Can you blame me?" I retorted, my voice full of sass. "You're the best view in Sydney." He laughed, a deep, rich sound that made me want him even more. The alcohol buzzed in my veins, heightening every sensation, every touch, making the moment feel electric. Alex pulled me against him, his hands finding their place on my hips, and I swear I could feel every inch of his strength and desire. The night was ours, and as far as I was concerned, it was just getting started. I got Alex good and naked, tossing his clothes aside with a flick of my wrist. My eyes were drawn immediately to his cock, impressive and hard, a sight that never failed to send a thrill through me. I took hold of it, my fingers wrapping around its thickness, and started stroking slowly, savoring the feel of him in my hand. He let out a low growl, deep and primal, that made my core tighten with anticipation. I could feel his body vibrating with need, every muscle coiled like a predator about to pounce. Alex's eyes were dark with desire as he bent down to return the favor. His lips found my nipples, kissing and sucking them with a delicious intensity that makes me gasp. His hands followed soon after, sliding between my thighs, teasingly moving upward. I shivered at his touch, my body aching for more. "God, Mads," he murmured, his voice rough and filled with adoration. "You have no idea how much I want you." I couldn't help but smile, feeling both powerful and cherished. "Then take me. I'm all yours." His fingers reached their destination, rubbing my pussy with a skill that only comes from knowing someone so intimately. The pleasure was insane, every stroke sending electric pulses through me, building me up until I was lost in a haze of bliss. "Fuck, you're so wet for me," he said, eyes locked onto mine with a mix of lust and love that made my heart race. I moaned in response, unable to find the words as he continued to work his magic, bringing me closer and closer to the edge. His touch was both gentle and possessive, like he knew exactly how to make me unravel. But then, just when I thought I couldn't take any more, his animal side took over. He grabbed my hips with a fierce grip, lifting me effortlessly and tossing me onto the bed as if I weighed nothing. The movement was so unexpected, so exhilarating, that it stole my breath away. I watched him with admiration as he stood before me. His gorgeous cock stands stiff as stone, and the sight made my body throb with desire. Without taking his eyes off me, Alex climbed onto the bed, a wicked grin on his lips that promised the kind of night I won't soon forget. Alex looked down at me, his eyes full of heat and tenderness, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive. "You ready for me?" he asked, his voice a rough whisper that sent shivers down my spine. "Always," I replied with a grin, wrapping my legs around his waist and pulling him closer, guiding him to where I needed him most. His tip nudged against my entrance, and I held my breath, savoring the anticipation. He pushed forward slowly, filling me inch by inch, and the sensation was exquisite. His cock stretching me perfectly, fitting inside me like we were made for each other. I let out a soft moan, my body tingling with pleasure as he sank deeper, hitting that sweet spot that made my toes curl. "God, you feel incredible," Alex groaned, his voice thick with desire and adoration, so warm and tight around me. He paused for a moment, savoring the feel of me wrapped around him, and I took in the sight of him above me, his muscles taut and glistening with a light sheen of sweat, every inch of him exuding strength and raw masculinity. His skin was warm and familiar, carrying that comforting scent that I could never get enough of, a mix of clean soap and something distinctly him. Alex started to move, his hips setting a rhythm that was both powerful and intimate. Each thrust sent waves of pleasure crashing through me, making my heart race and my skin tingle. His eyes stayed locked on mine, a silent conversation of love and desire passing between us with every gaze. The room was filled with the sound of our breathing, the gentle slap of skin against skin, and the sweet, dirty words he whispered as he made love to me. "You're amazing, Mads. I love seeing you like this, so beautiful and mine." I couldn't help but respond with a soft moan, arching my back to meet his thrusts, feeling the delicious friction building between us. His movements were both tender and demanding, driving me to the edge with every stroke. "You're so deep," I gasped, gripping his shoulders, feeling the muscles ripple beneath my fingers as he moved. "Don't stop, Alex." He growled low in his throat, a sound that made my heart leap. "I want you to come with me, baby. Can you do that for me?" "I'd love to," I whispered breathlessly, feeling the tension coil tighter within me, ready to snap. The pace quickens, our bodies moving in perfect harmony, and I could feel my orgasm building, a slow crescendo of pleasure that threatened to consume me. With a final thrust, Alex pushed us both over the edge, and I cried out, my body shattering around him in waves of ecstasy. The sensation was intense, every nerve ending alight with bliss as I clenched around him, feeling his warmth spill into me as he found his own release. Alex groaned my name, a deep, satisfying sound that echoed in the room, his body shuddering as he came inside me, filling me completely. We held each other tight, lost in the aftermath of shared pleasure, our breaths mingling as we slowly came back to earth. After the waves of pleasure subsided, Alex wrapped his arms around me and pulled me close. He spooned me with his big, warm body, and I felt his cock, still slightly hard, pressing against the small of my back. It was a comforting reminder of the connection we just shared, and I couldn't help but sigh contentedly. He kissed my shoulder softly, his lips brushing against my skin like a promise. "I'm the luckiest man in Australia," he murmured, his voice a mix of sincerity and that adorable drunken slur that made my heart melt. I chuckled, knowing he's had more than a few drinks, and I could sense that playful side of him. "I mean it, Mads," he continued, his breath tickling my ear. "I can't believe we actually went through with it. I'm so glad we got married tonight." His words hung in the air, and my eyes flashed with surprise. Did we really get married? The reality hit me like a tidal wave, a mix of shock and disbelief coursing through me. Images of the night flooded back to me, the bright lights of the wedding chapel, the quick exchange of vows with an Elvis impersonator officiating, and the laughing kiss we shared as we stumbled. It felt like a dream, a fun, reckless adventure, but apparently it wasn't just a dream. The thought left me both thrilled and terrified, a wild mix of emotions that made my heart race. "We're married." The words repeated in my mind, a thrilling echo that I couldn't quite wrap my head around. "Wow," I whispered, letting the reality sink in. "I guess we're really doing this, huh?" Alex tightened his hold on me, nuzzling his face into my neck. "Wouldn't want it any other way," he said softly, and there was something so genuine in his tone that it made my heart swell. I decided to tuck the thought away for now, snuggling deeper into his embrace and enjoying the warmth and security that came with being wrapped in his arms. We'd figure it out in the morning, I told myself, letting the rhythm of his breathing lull me to sleep. I woke up with a pounding headache, the Australian sunlight streaming through the window doing me no favors. As I blinked the sleep from my eyes, I couldn't help but take in the view next to me, Alex lying there, the sheets just barely covering him, outlining a physique that could make even the worst hangover seem worth it. I smiled, my mind replaying the whirlwind of last night's events, Curiosity nudges me out of bed and over to my purse. Digging through it, my fingers closed around a piece of paper that made my heart skip a beat. A marriage certificate. Just then, Alex groaned, his voice rough with sleep. "Man, did we drink too much or what?" he joked, slowly sitting up and rubbing his eyes. A sudden thought strikes me, and I turn to him, holding my breath. "Alex, do you remember what we did last night?" I quickly stashed the certificate back into my purse before he could notice. He stretched, then wraps his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. "I remember the drinks, the love-making," he said, a hint of a smirk in his voice. "Then it gets a bit fuzzy. Why? Did I miss something?" "Nothing," I replied a bit too quickly, deciding right then and there to keep the truth of our impulsive marriage under wraps, at least for now. This wasn't the time to drop such a bombshell. Not until I figured out what this really meant for us. A loud bang jerks me back to the less than glamorous reality. I blink, surveying my grim surroundings, a dingy room with concrete walls and a single unfriendly chair to which I'm currently tied. The door had just been violently introduced to the wall, thanks to the entrance of 3 not-so-welcome guests. Strutting in like he owns the place, which he probably does, is the leader. He's hard to miss with that defiant mohawk sprouting from his shaved head. His face is all hard lines and aggressive edges, like he's been chiseled out of stone and spite. As I scream out, more out of frustration than fear, he lets out a laugh that could curdle milk. "Go ahead, scream," he sneers with a disgusting smirk. "We're smack in the middle of the jungle. It's just us and the birds, and they don't care." My temper flares, and I snap back. "How about you untie me and we'll see how loud I really can be, and how vicious." "No chance," he retorts, as if denying a second helping of dessert. Stepping closer, he invades my personal space, introducing himself with a smirk. "I'm Marco," he says, as if we're at a twisted networking event. Under normal circumstances, you'd already be dead for snapping those photos. But see, you being American makes you a more valuable commodity. He retreats, leaving his words hanging like a dark cloud. "Welcome to your new home," he declares with mock grandeur. "Enjoy your stay, or don't. I suppose it all depends on what I decide to do with you." His threats hang in the air, but I clench my jaw, refusing to show the fear bubbling inside.
Chapter 4. Alex. How the hell are we supposed to find her, Alex? We're SEALs, not detectives. Tristan slumps into the seat next to me as we speak, his brow furrowed. We're on a flight to Costa Rica, the hum of the aircraft's engines blending with the restless thoughts tumbling through my head. It feels surreal, the sudden shift from routine operations to this personal rescue mission. Maddison was kidnapped from her apartment near San Jose, Costa Rica. The words from Admiral Duffy echo in my mind, each one a sharp jab to my focus. I turn to him, my resolve firm. "We're not going it alone," I say, trying to infuse some assurance into the situation. U.S. intelligence is already on it. They're helping us out. "But our first step," I continue, adjusting my tactical watch as if it could somehow speed up our arrival, "is to hit her apartment. We need to see what we can see, gather any clues she might have left behind." Tristan nods, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. He knows, just as I do, that we're stepping into uncertain territory, but it's not the first time. We have a mission, a clear objective, and that's to bring Maddison back, safe. Whatever it takes, we're going to make it happen. Tristan cocks his head to the side, eyeing me with that look that I've come to know all too well. I can't help but grin, bracing myself. Oh, I know that look," I say, half wary, half amused. "What?" Tristan asks, his tone light. I chuckle, shaking my head. "I know they call you Cracker because you're a whiz at cracking codes, but sometimes I get the impression you think you can read minds, too." Tristan laughs, the sound echoing slightly in the close confines of the aircraft. "When you're as obvious as you are, Alex, it doesn't take any special skills," he teases. I tense up, the humor fading a bit. Tristan notices immediately, his expression sobering as he leans in slightly. "I haven't said a word yet about the fact that it's not just anyone who's been kidnapped. It's Maddison." His voice is lower now, serious. Tristan leans back, his gaze sharp. "How are you holding up with all this, man?" he asks, his voice carrying a weight that's rare for him. "What? You think this is going to affect my ability to perform the mission?" I reply defensively, my guard up instantly. "No, dude," Tristan shakes his head, his tone firm yet friendly. "Because you're my damn friend, dumbass." I let out a small, reluctant smile at his straightforwardness. It's just like Tristan to cut through the BS. "Yeah, there's history," I admit, the words feeling heavy as they leave my mouth. "Some of it definitely needs to be hashed out, but right now, with Maddison's life hanging in the balance, going over our past feels like a damn luxury." Tristan nods, understanding the turmoil beneath my calm exterior. "First things first, getting her back safe," I continue, my resolve hardening. "That's exactly what we're going to do," Tristan affirms, clapping a reassuring hand on my shoulder. We land in Costa Rica, the lush green of the jungle sprawling into what seems like infinity as the plane touches down. As soon as we disembark, we're met by our contact from the Costa Rican army. He's a stern-faced officer who wastes no time in escorting us into San Rafael, the small town on the outskirts of the capital where Maddison had been staying. The drive is quiet, each of us lost in our own thoughts, preparing for what might come next. Arriving at Maddison's apartment, we're greeted by a few agents from the CIA already deep into the investigation. They look up as we enter, their expressions a mix of seriousness and relief at the added support. One of the agents, a sharp-eyed woman, steps forward to brief us. According to her most recent emails, Maddison had been in Braulio Carrillo National Park to take pictures of wildlife, she informs us, handing over copies of the emails for us to see. The information pieces together part of Maddison's last known movements, framing the urgency of our next steps. The CIA agent suggests that initially they thought Maddison might have had an accident in the jungle. I cut in, my voice firm. "The state of this apartment makes it clear. She's been taken, not lost to some accident." Alex, his brow furrowed, turns to the agent. "Who might have done this?" he asks, scanning the room for any overlooked clues. The agent's reply is grim but expected. "The park is rumored to be a hotbed for gun and drug-running cartels. There's a good chance she stumbled upon something she shouldn't have." I take a moment to glance around the apartment. It's messy, signs of a struggle, but nothing that suggests a fatal encounter. "There's no blood or anything," I note aloud, trying to inject a hint of optimism. "She's probably still alive." As we move through the apartment, my eyes catch a peculiar detail that raises the stakes. On the floor near the front door, there are slight scuff marks, but as I check the back door, I notice similar marks, too fresh and distinct to be a coincidence. "Looks like there were two separate entries," I point out, squatting down to examine the second set of marks more closely. This detail suggests a coordinated effort, not just a random act of violence. The realization tightens my resolve. Chase frowns, a puzzle piece clearly missing in his mind. "Why would they come back if they already captured her?" he asks, his voice laced with confusion. That question sparks a realization in me. "They came back to find something," I say, the gears turning fast now. Austin looks at me, a silent prompt for more. I start piecing it together out loud. Maddison's always been a sucker for the perfect shot, probably snapped some pictures of the cartel in the jungle. They grabbed her and her gear initially, but once they got her to wherever they're holding her, they must have realized she didn't have the memory card with those photos. The room goes quiet as the implication of my words sinks in. The return trip wasn't just a double check. It was a frantic search for missing evidence that Maddison smartly hid. The CIA agent nods, clearly impressed. "You're quite the detective," she comments with a half smile. "Ever considered a change in branches?" Her tone is light, but the compliment lands with the weight of genuine respect. "No thanks," I reply with a quick grin. "I'm right where I'm supposed to be." Chase glances around the slightly disheveled apartment. Now it's just a simple matter of looking through the apartment to find the memory card, assuming they haven't already found it. I can't help but smirk at that. Ever since she had her gear stolen in Kathmandu, Maddison's been pretty diligent about hiding it, I explain, already moving towards the bed, and she usually goes for the same spot. The team watches, a mix of curiosity and anticipation in their eyes, as I approach the bed and start twisting the tops off the bedposts. Sure enough, as the top of the last post comes off, I find a small stash cleverly hidden inside. It's not just any stash. There's her passport, some cash, and a small baggie containing a few memory cards. Here it is, I announce, holding up the baggie with a triumphant grin. The relief is palpable in the room, mixed with a renewed sense of urgency. Time to get to work.
Chapter 5. Maddison. Tied to a chair in a room that's about as inviting. As a dentist's waiting room, I'm doing my best to channel some of that famous Houdini magic. Unfortunately, without much luck. The room's stark, and I can barely wiggle, let alone attempt any grand escape maneuvers. And the kicker? I'm not even sure if anyone knows I'm missing. No one knows exactly where I am, which feels a bit like being lost in space, floating around and hoping someone will pull you back to Earth. A wave of anxiety threatens to overwhelm me, but then I remember my mom and her daily check-ins. She's insisted since I started my globe-trotting adventures that I send her a quick email every morning to confirm I'm still in the land of the living. I always thought it was a bit over the top, like, come on, Mom, I'm not a kid anymore. But right now, I'm more thankful for her mother hen tendencies than ever. If she hasn't gotten her usual "yes, Mom, I'm fine" message by now, she's probably mobilizing the cavalry. Just as I'm trying to imagine my mom on the phone, giving some poor government official an earful, the door creaks open, snapping my attention back to the here and now. A trio of guards busts in, and without a hint of ceremony, they yank the knots loose and haul me out of the chair. I kick and squirm, giving them a bit of a show, but let's be honest. It doesn't do any good. These guys are built like they wrestle bears for fun. They drag me through the camp, and it's like walking through the set of some gritty crime thriller. The place is a full-blown drug and gun den. Packs of illicit substances piled here and there, the air thick with the acrid smell of chemicals and sweat. It's not just the drugs. There's what looks like practically slave labor, men and women with hollow eyes and desperate faces, all under the watchful and downright vicious eyes of the cartel guards. It's a factory of nightmares, run by the worst kind of monsters. They lead me to the largest of the buildings, the so-called headquarters of this little empire of crime. As we step inside, there he is, Marco, lounging like he owns the world, with a wicked grin plastered across his face that suggests he's already planned out the next horrible chapter of my life. The sight of him, so smug and secure in his power, sends a shiver down my spine, but I'm not about to let him see that. I square my shoulders and meet his gaze head-on. "Hola, gatita," he purrs, a twisted smile stretching across his face. His feet are propped up on a desk, a big buck knife in one hand, the kind that looks like it's seen more than a few unsavory things. The blade has streaks of what looks unmistakably like dried blood. His office is a gallery of crime, guns and bags of drugs scattered carelessly around, piles of cash heaped like someone's loose change. It's chaos organized by a madman. I'm thrown onto a chair across from him, and he asks in a tone that feigns concern, "How are you holding up?" "Screw you," I snap back without a second's hesitation. He laughs, thoroughly amused. "You're a good reminder of why I love American girls. Feisty," he chuckles, his eyes scanning me a bit too leisurely. That and their lovely blonde hair. His gaze makes my skin crawl. I lean forward, my voice low but fierce. "Keep it up, and I'll use that big knife of yours to pop out those pervy eyes." Marco's laughter fills the room again, unaffected by my threat. His amusement at my defiance is clear, but it doesn't deter me. If he thinks I'm just another damsel in distress, he's in for a rude awakening. Marco leans back, his smile turning cold as he lays out my grim situation. "You're in the middle of the jungle, miles from anything resembling civilization," he begins, waving the knife casually as he speaks. "Even if by some miracle you escaped, the jungle out there would eat you alive, literally." His laugh is dark, echoing around the cluttered room. And let's not forget, he continues, tapping the tip of his knife against the desk. Your little American passport is the only thing keeping you alive right now. That and your connections back in the U.S. I narrow my eyes, frustration knotting in my chest. What do you know, I demand, trying to gauge how much leverage he actually has. Marco's grin widens. I did a little digging through your things and did some research. Turns out you're the daughter of an admiral, Admiral Patrick Duffy to be precise. His tone is mocking, as if he's proud of his detective work. You see, Gataita, he says, leaning forward, the knife still in hand. I plan to use you to extract a very fat ransom from your dear padre. The way he articulates fat with relish paints a clear picture of his intentions. My frustration boils over. You're an idiot, I snap sharply. You really think you can mess with the U.S. Navy? They run a much tighter ship than your backyard operation here in the jungle. They'll flatten you, and it'll be your own damn arrogance that does you in. The amusement drains from Marco's face as he places the knife down with an ominous clink. He rises slowly, the air around him thickening with menace as he approaches. Every step he takes is calculated, shrinking the room around us with the weight of impending danger. He reaches me, and without warning, his hand snaps out, backhanding me across the face. The pain is a sharp, brutal snap, rattling my senses. I reel from the impact, stars exploding behind my closed eyelids. As I force my head back up, glaring at him through the haze of pain, he leans in close. His voice is a menacing whisper, dripping with venom. That was a warning, he murmurs, his breath hot against my bruised cheek. Next time, I'll use the knife. His threat slices through the air, meant to terrorize, but I meet his dark gaze with a fiery one of my own. Is that supposed to scare me, Marco? I retort, my voice thick with disdain despite the sting on my face. I refuse to give him the satisfaction of seeing me broken. Marco's voice drips with condescension. It should scare you, it really should. If it doesn't, maybe you're not as smart as I thought you were. He waves a dismissive hand at his guards. Take her back to her room, but make her comfortable, he adds with a sneer. She is a VIP, after all. The guards haul me back to my room with about as much gentleness as a cat with a mouse. Despite Marco's mocking order, they don't bother tying me back to the chair this time. They dump me in the middle of the sparse room and leave, slamming the door behind them. Once the door clicks shut, I push myself up, rubbing at my sore arms. Great, upgraded to VIP. Where's my welcome basket? I mutter sarcastically under my breath, scanning the room for anything that might help me get out of here. The space is still depressingly bare, but this time, without the restraints, I have a bit more freedom to move. I creep over to the window, peering through the grimy pane to assess the layout outside. Not much of a view, just more jungle and the backs of some rundown buildings. My mind races as I start considering every possible escape plan, no matter how far-fetched. Marco might think his scare tactics are breaking me down, but all he's really doing is stoking the fire. I'm getting out of here, one way or another.
Chapter 6. Alex. Get seated, boys, in our makeshift safe house in Costa Rica. The team huddles around a flickering screen. Admiral Duffy appears on it, his image grainy but his composure rock solid. I can't help but respect how the man holds himself together, knowing full well his daughter's life hangs in the balance. It's the mark of a true leader, maintaining a steel spine when it would be easier to crumble. Admiral Duffy's voice cuts through the tense air, every word measured and clear. I'm currently en route to your location, speaking from my flight, he continues, his voice steady despite the faint turbulence. To begin, your efforts on the ground have paved the way for a comprehensive takedown. Thanks to Tristan's work with the memory card, we've made significant progress, he begins, his eyes scanning each of us on the screen as if taking our measure even from miles away. Maddison's photos were more than just evidence. They were a gold mine. He continues, his tone a mix of gratitude and urgency. We've used the images to triangulate her last known location. Not only that, but we've identified the cartel responsible for her abduction. The gravity of his words sinks in. Knowing where they are holding Maddison shifts our mission from search to rescue, bringing an intense focus to every man in the room. Admiral Duffy's face hardens as he provides more details about the perpetrators. The group behind the kidnapping is known as Los Lobos del Sur, he states solemnly. Tristan translates for emphasis, the Southern Wolves. That's right, Duffy confirms. They're one of the most dangerous cartels in the region, known for their ruthlessness and, let's just say, lack of scruples. I lean forward, locking my eyes on the screen. Cartels are dangerous, sure, but they're not stupid, I argue. They'd know better than to harm even a single hair on the head of an American, let alone the daughter of an admiral. It's bad for business. That's what we're hoping, Duffy replies, his voice tinged with a mixture of hope and caution. But we haven't received any ransom demands yet. He pauses, his jaw setting firm. Not to mention, the U.S. government does not negotiate with scum like them. His statement rings with finality, a clear line drawn in the sand. The room goes silent for a moment, each of us processing the gravity of the situation. The lack of a ransom demand could mean a variety of things, none of them particularly comforting. Duffy continues to outline the situation. There are 2 Lobos camps in the region, and they're about 5 kilometers apart. I nod, processing the logistics. That means we're going to need to split up, I say, already strategizing the division of our team. That's right, Duffy confirms. Maddison's pictures are good, but they aren't detailed enough to pinpoint which of the 2 camps she's being held at. And if we hit the wrong one, and word gets to the camp where Maddison actually is, he doesn't finish his sentence, but he doesn't need to. We all understand the stakes. Austin speaks up with resolve. This means we're going to need to hit both camps hard and at the same time. Right, I say. Coordinating a simultaneous strike will maximize confusion among the cartel and minimize the risk of them harming Maddison or slipping away with her. The team nods in agreement, each man mentally preparing for the operation. Duffy lays out the final details of the plan with precision. We move out an hour before daybreak, he declares. The Costa Rican army will transport you within a kilometer of the camps, then you'll split up. Jamie will be in command of monitoring the situation remotely, so the teams will operate as 2 pairs. He pauses, assessing each of us through the screen, his gaze stern, yet imbued with a commander's resolve. Get some rest before we move out, he advises. Then, with a slight hardening of his tone, he adds, It goes without saying, but any cartel member you encounter won't be missed. I can't help but grin at that, understanding the underlying message. Duffy's face softens slightly as he concludes, Good luck, gentlemen. And he pauses, his voice thickening with emotion. Bring my daughter back, safe and sound. As the call ends, I turn to the team, my own resolve mirrored in their eyes. We're ready, I affirm, clapping a hand on Tristan's and Austin's shoulders. Let's gear up and give 'em hell.
Chapter 7. Maddison. I jolt awake to the unmistakable sound of the door unlocking. My heart instantly starts pounding, adrenaline surging through me as I sit up, scanning the dimly lit room. In that half-dazed, hopeful state, I let myself imagine it's Alex coming to rescue me. I miss him like crazy. The thought of seeing him again, here, now, feels like the only thing that could make this nightmare bearable. But as the door creaks open, that sliver of hope shatters. It's not Alex. Instead, one of the guards steps in, a smug smile plastered across his face. Buenos dias, he greets me mockingly in Spanish, and the chilling look in his eyes makes it abundantly clear he's not here to offer room service or friendly chit-chat. His presence fills the room with a heavy, ominous air. I square my shoulders and meet his gaze, forcing a tight smile. Morning, I reply coolly, clinging to every shred of the toughness Alex loves about me. In this moment, I need all the strength I can muster, especially since it's clear that help isn't walking through that door. Not yet, anyway. The guard grabs the chair and drags it with an exaggerated clatter across the concrete floor, setting it down opposite me. He lowers himself into it with a self-satisfied smirk, making himself comfortable as he eyes me curiously. Are you comfortable? Is there anything I can get for you? He asks, his tone dripping with mock concern. I cross my arms, unamused by his theatrics. Unless you've got a direct flight to Virginia, I'm really not interested in small talk, I shoot back. He chuckles at my response, seemingly amused. I'm Manuel, he introduces himself, leaning back in the chair and studying me with a hint of genuine curiosity, his demeanor unsettlingly pleasant. I'm here to make sure you have everything you need. His niceness sends a shiver down my spine. It's too calculated, too poised. I lean forward, fixing him with a stare that's meant to cut through the nonsense. Cut to the chase, Manuel. What do you really want? I catch a glimpse of a pistol holstered at his waist. He follows my gaze and then meets my eyes again, his smile unwavering. I'm just here to ensure your comfort, señorita. Anything you need, just ask, he says, his voice smooth, but the underlying threat is palpable. He's not just here for my comfort. That much is clear. Manuel's smile doesn't fade. If anything, it stretches wider, more sinister. He seems to relish the tension thickening the air between us. It's early, he observes, his voice unnaturally cheerful. I know. Thanks for the wake-up call, I reply, my tone dripping with sarcasm. He ignores my jab, continuing with a shrug. Marco asked me to look after you and get you anything you need. He pauses, the smile finally slipping into something more predatory. But you see, there are things I need too. His voice drops, a dangerous edge surfacing as he stands up, his intentions crystal clear. He leans in, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Marco's a good leader, but he's a bit of a late sleeper. Anything that happens this early, he won't have to know about. I snap back, my voice sharp and fierce. Screw off, Manuel. My eyes dart around the room, quickly assessing my options. He might think he's got the upper hand, but I'm not about to let this creep corner me without a fight. As he steps closer, I spot a loose leg on the chair he just vacated, and my mind races. If I can just get to that chair, I might have a chance. I brace myself, ready to make a move, because if it's down to him or me, I'm making sure it's not going to be me. As Manuel inches closer, every muscle in my body tenses, primed and ready. I lean back against the bed, calculating my timing. Just as he reaches for me, I launch forward with all my strength, my feet slamming into his chest. The impact sends him staggering backward, the air whooshing out of him in a surprised grunt, buying me precious seconds. I leap off the bed and dash to the chair, my hands quickly prying at the loose leg I had eyed earlier. Manuel recovers, spewing a string of curses in Spanish, his eyes flaring with fury, but I'm faster this time, fueled by adrenaline and sheer will. With the chair leg firm in my grasp, I swing with all my might, connecting with the side of his head. The force of the blow sends him reeling sideways, and he collapses, his skull making a sickening thud against the bedpost. He crumples to the ground, motionless. For a moment, I stand frozen, watching his still body, not sure if he's dead or just knocked out. And right now, I don't care. I snatch the pistol from his belt, the weight of it both terrifying and reassuring in my hand. I remember the bits of firearms training my dad insisted on, the lessons feeling more vital now than ever. Thanks, Dad, I murmur, checking the gun for ammunition. Armed and slightly more secure, I start searching for a way out, knowing I have to move fast before anyone comes to check on Manuel. I cautiously peek my head out of the room, which Manuel, in his brilliant exit strategy, has left open. The hallway is eerily quiet. The first blush of dawn is starting to lighten the edges of the jungle outside, a clear signal that it's now or never. I'm pretty sure I can trace my way back. It should only be a few hours' walk at most. Time to get the hell out of this nightmare. With a determined grin, I step out into the camp, ready to make my own way back to freedom. Rescue be damned.
Chapter 8. Alex. Jamie, we're approaching the vantage point. Now, I murmur into the comms, keeping my voice low despite the protective cover of the jungle sounds. As Chase and I move through the dense jungle, the sunrise splashes brilliant colors across the scenery, casting long shadows and painting the undergrowth in hues of gold and amber. I'm in constant communication with Jamie, who's back at base monitoring the operation with a watchful eye. Copy that, Alex. Stay sharp, Jamie's voice crackles through the earpiece. I switch channels to check in with Austin and Tristan, who are simultaneously closing in on the other Lobos base. "You guys see anything yet?" I ask. "Affirmative," Austin replies. "Looks like the same setup here. We've got eyes on the camp." Soon, Chase and I reach our vantage point, and the scene below confirms our worst fears. It's a sprawling, drug-running operation, and even from here, I can see the workers moving about, their body language screaming coercion and duress. "Jamie, visual confirmation on multiple civilians. They're definitely not here willingly," I report, scanning the area through binoculars. Austin's voice comes through again, firm and grim. "Same situation here. This is bigger than we thought." Chase, studying the scene beside me, mutters, "Debt slaves, most likely, pulled into the dirt by the cartel." The idea churns my stomach, but it steels my resolve, too. "Looks like we've got more than one hostage to rescue then," I say, my voice hard as flint. "Let's get ready to move. We're bringing everyone out." Jamie responds with a crisp, "Copy that," his voice all business over the comm. "I'll coordinate with the Admiral to arrange a large-scale evacuation for the workers. Stand by." Austin chimes in, his tone a reminder of our operational limits. "Remember, we're scalpels, not broadswords. We can't take on the entire cartel by ourselves." I nod, even though they can't see it. "That's right," I agree, my voice low and steady. "Our strategy is to sow confusion and chaos, create a window for the workers to make a run for it, and we'll guide them to the extraction point." I turn to Chase, then speak into the comm again, addressing both Austin and Tristan. "Get in close and plant the explosives. We need to shake them up and hit them where it hurts, but hold off on the detonation until you get my signal." As we finalize the positions, I add another critical task. "And keep your eyes peeled for Mads. We need a visual confirmation on her location before we make any moves." "Copy that," comes the synchronized reply from Austin and Tristan, their voices tense but focused. The stakes are high, and each of us knows the part we have to play. Both teams slip into their designated positions around the twin cartel bases, ready to strike. Austin and I gear up to infiltrate while Chase and Tristan set themselves up for overwatch, their eyes sharp and covering every angle. I adjust my gear, mentally preparing for the breach. Moving quietly, I approach the edge of the perimeter of my target base. A pair of guards patrol lazily, unaware of the storm about to break over them. I close the distance, my steps silent on the damp earth. In one fluid, practiced motion, I dispatch them with my combat knife, quick and silent takedowns that leave no room for alerts or alarms. With the perimeter now secure, I press deeper into the camp, my senses heightened, taking in every detail of the base layout. The command building looms ahead, its structure imposing. To the right, the main processing building buzzes with illicit activity, the heart of the operation, but it's another structure that catches my attention. A smaller, more guarded building where I see a worker being hurriedly shuffled inside. That has to be the holding area. I melt back into the shadows, moving with calculated precision. I trail the cartel member and the worker, keeping to the darker patches, my movements nearly invisible. Once inside, I navigate through a series of dimly lit corridors, each turn revealing more holding rooms, their doors heavy and foreboding. I hear muffled voices ahead and move closer, ready to intervene. I spot a cartel member beginning to rough up a worker, his actions fueled by cruelty and power. Poised to intervene and take him down quickly, my muscles tense in anticipation. But before I can act, a figure emerges from the shadows, a swift, silent presence. She strikes the cartel member with a swift, precise pistol whip to the back of his head. He collapses without a sound, completely blindsided by the attack. Then, she speaks soothingly in Spanish to the worker, quickly undoing her bindings. My heart stops for a second as the scene unfolds. Something about the figure strikes a familiar chord. As she turns, her profile illuminated by the dim light, realization washes over me. "Mads?" I whisper, almost in disbelief. Hearing her name, she whirls around, pistol still in hand, instincts kicking in as she aims at the new threat. Alex! Her voice is a mix of surprise and relief once she recognizes me. The gun lowers slightly, her posture easing as the tension dissipates with recognition. It's her. It's really her.
Chapter 9. Maddison. I'm stunned. It's him. Even amid the chaos, I can't help but notice how fine Alex looks, all geared up for battle with camo face paint streaking his determined face. He's got that rugged, ready-for-anything vibe that just knocks the breath right out of me. He's so overwhelmingly sexy standing there that my thoughts scatter for a hot second. Alex grins, noticing the way I'm still aiming the pistol, half distracted by his sudden appearance. He steps closer, his voice light with that familiar teasing tone. You know, if you don't lower that pistol, I'll have to do a close-quarters disarmament. I let out a long breath, finally exhaling the tension I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Lowering the pistol, I manage a shaky laugh. Is it really you? I ask, needing just one more confirmation. Yeah, it's me, he replies with a nod, his eyes scanning me briefly as if to make sure I'm really okay. How did you get out of your cell? He asks, curiosity marking his tone. I nod towards the room to my right, where I had just taken down the guard. Took advantage of some lax security. Alex peeks into the room and spots the guard sprawled out on the ground. He lets out an appreciative, ah, fully recognizing the handiwork of Maddison Hartley, photojournalist turned escape artist. I was planning on trying my luck with the jungle, I say, going on. But this place is thick with guards. We both turn our attention to the worker who's still reeling from the recent events, her expression dazed and confused. Alex glances at me, a half smirk, playing at the edge of his lips. So how's your Spanish? Because unless I need to ask where El Baño is, I'm not going to get very far with mine. I roll my eyes, but there's a smile tugging at my lips. I've picked up a bit over the last few weeks, I admit. It's not perfect, but it's enough to get by. He nods, then gestures to the worker. Tell her we're going to get everyone out of here. There's an evac spot 1 kilometer to the south, in an open field. When the explosion hits, start running. But first, spread the word among the workers about what's going on. I relay the message, my Spanish rusty but clear enough. The worker's eyes widen with a mix of fear and relief. She nods vigorously, understanding the plan, and then slips out of the room to start spreading the word. Once she's gone, the room suddenly feels too quiet, the weight of the situation settling between us. Alex's gaze softens as he looks at me. Are you okay? He asks, his voice low. Yeah, I am now, I reply, meeting his eyes. The relief of being safe for the moment washes over me. He smiles a genuine relieved smile. It's good to see you, Mads. It's good to see you too, Alex. My voice is soft, laden with all the emotions I've been holding back. The air between us crackles with unmistakable tension, the kind that says everything has changed, and yet some things remain painfully the same. Then, just like that, the old anger I've harbored, the stuff about what went down between us, bubbles up. But I push it aside, masking it with a jab. What took you so long? I ask, half teasing, half serious. Alex laughs, the sound echoing slightly in the grim setting. Well, you know, it's a bit of an undertaking to pull off an international rescue mission from a cartel camp in the middle of the jungle, he replies, his eyes twinkling with a mix of humor and adrenaline. Fine, I concede, with a mock roll of my eyes. But what's the plan for getting out of here? I'm all business now. As much as I want to dive into the past, survival takes precedence. He gets straight to the point. I'm going to plant an explosive, then set it off. It'll be the distraction we need, Alex explains. His tone is calm, methodical, the seal in him taking over. Then we'll get the hell out of here in the chaos, make our way to the extraction point. The rest of the guys are handling the other camp. Sounds like a scene straight out of an action movie, I quip, trying to lighten the mood despite the gravity of our situation. Inside, my heart is racing, not just from the impending explosion, but from being so close to Alex again under such intense circumstances. Alex surveys the camp's layout carefully, his gaze sharp and calculating. Turning to me, he says firmly, "Stay put here while I go plant the explosive." Where? I ask, my curiosity piqued, trying to envision his plan. He pauses, his eyes scanning the area as he considers the options. I was going to pick a good spot, he replies, still looking over the terrain thoughtfully. I point towards the small parking lot visible from our hideout. Why not there? Cripple their ability to pursue us. He pauses, considering it, then nods for me to continue. Marco, the big boss man, has a motorcycle, I say. If we can hotwire it, we can get out of here fast. Alex raises an eyebrow. Tell you what, you keep watch. I'll hotwire it. I can't help but smirk. What, you think I don't know how to hotwire vehicles? I see his surprise and decide to explain a bit. The Admiral didn't just teach me to shoot. He made sure I knew how to be self-sufficient, which included learning a few less scrupulous skills from his younger, wilder days. Alex smirks, clearly impressed. Fine, you hotwire it. I'll keep watch. That's a pretty handy skill to have. Yeah, Dad thought so too, I quip, feeling a mixture of pride and nostalgia for the lessons that seemed over the top at the time but were proving invaluable now. All right, the plan sounds good, Alex concedes with a nod. You handle the bike, I'll take care of the explosive. Let's cripple their wheels and make our escape on theirs. It's a risky move, but with our backs against the wall, it's the kind of bold play that just might work. Alex's instructions are clear. Stay put while I plant the explosive. I can't help but bristle a little. I'm not some soldier you can just order around, I retort, instantly realizing how petulant I sound. He gives me a look that's both amused and exasperated. I'm well aware of just how willful you can be, he concedes, with a slight grin. And I'm happy for your help, really. But getting you and the workers out safely is the priority. His sincerity cuts through my defensiveness, and I nod, accepting his point. As I watch, Alex slips out, moving with the quiet confidence of a shadow, and heads towards one of the jeeps. He works quickly and efficiently, planting a small but potent bomb on the vehicle. When he returns to the holding building, his expression is one of focused determination. He immediately radios the team. I have Maddison, and the bomb is planted, he reports crisply. From the other end, Tristan's voice crackles through the comm. Good to hear. My bomb's planted too. Alex nods once, sharply, his jaw set. On my mark, he says, pausing just a moment to meet my gaze, an unspoken signal flashing between us. Detonate.
Chapter 10. Alex. The bomb detonates with a thunderous roar, shredding 2 jeeps and scattering guards like leaves in a storm. Instantly, the camp erupts into chaos as the workers seize their moment. Some sprint for the trees, others, emboldened, start to fight back, overpowering their dazed captors. It's a whirlwind of liberation and bedlam. In the thick of it, I take command, turning to Maddison. Follow me, I shout, trying to make myself heard over the explosions and cries. But as we dart out, I'm hit with the realization that I don't actually know where the motorcycle is. Parked. Where was our ride again? Maddison laughs, the sound sharp and bright against the backdrop of chaos. Seriously, Alex? All right, tough guy. This time you follow me. Chase, from his vantage point, lays down cover fire, his shots precise and effective, picking off guards who are stumbling around in confusion. Support clears a path for us as Maddison leads us with confidence. She brings us to a secluded part of the camp where the motorcycle, a rugged, dirt-streaked beast that looks like it could handle any terrain, sits waiting. Without missing a beat, Maddison climbs on and starts fiddling with the ignition wires. Didn't peg you for the biker type, I quip, impressed by her quick work. She smirks, not looking up from her task. There's a lot you don't know about me. The engine roars to life under her skilled hands. I jump on behind her, drawing my pistol. Just like old times, huh? I say as we speed off, firing back at pursuing guards. She laughs, gunning the engine. Yeah, except I'm driving this time. We weave through the remaining chaos, bullets flying, adrenaline surging. Relief floods through me as I see the workers scattering from the camp, heading in the right direction toward safety. But the moment is fleeting. The guards are quickly regrouping, not willing to let their captives escape so easily. They jump into the 2 remaining jeeps, engines roaring to life as they start to give chase. I tighten my grip on the pistol, knowing it's up to us to keep these goons off our backs. Leaning forward slightly, I start firing at the jeeps, aiming to get their attention and slow them down. Bullets fly, and the jeeps swerve under the barrage, but they don't stop. One of the guards, a big, beefy guy with a short mohawk, who must be the man in charge, shouts orders, pointing directly at us. It's clear he's made Maddison and me his primary target. "Heads up, Mads!" I yell over the roar of the motorcycle. "We've got company!" Maddison doesn't miss a beat. Her response is a mix of grit and determination. "Hold tight!" she shouts back before yanking the handlebars hard. The motorcycle veers sharply, taking us deeper into the jungle, the terrain rough and untamed under the bike's tires. The jeeps lumber after us, less nimble but relentless. I twist around, continuing to fire shots at our pursuers. Maddison expertly maneuvers the bike, dodging low-hanging branches and thick roots, her driving as fierce and fearless as her spirit. We plunge deeper into the green maze, the chase far from over, but with every jolt and turn, we fight to put distance between us and them. One of the pursuing jeeps gains on us, its engine roaring menacingly, but the other, less fortunate, slams into a tree with a satisfying crunch. I can't help but feel a rush of satisfaction. My plan to lead them through the more treacherous paths is working, but the triumph is short-lived. Maddison's grip on the handlebars falters as the bike hits an unseen divot. Control slips away, and in a heart-stopping moment, we're skidding across the rough underbrush. The bike crashes into a rock, the impact jarring us both as metal groans and crunches under the force. It's wrecked, completely out of commission. I'm on my feet in an instant, my first thought for Maddison. "You okay?" I ask, scanning her quickly. She's scuffed, dirt smeared on her face and arms, but there's no sign of serious injury. "Yeah, just great," she replies with that tough, sardonic edge that reassures me more than anything. We're both shaken, but intact. However, we don't have time to dwell on our close call. Distant shouts and the sounds of crashing through the foliage signal that some of the cartel members are still on our tail. "Come on, this way," I say, spotting a small cave near the river. It's not much, but it offers some cover. We hurry inside, the cool darkness of the cave swallowing us as we press ourselves against the damp walls. Our breaths are heavy, hearts pounding, as we listen to the sounds of our pursuers drawing closer. Inside the cave, the cool, quiet darkness feels almost peaceful compared to what we've just escaped. We press deeper into the shadows, our breathing the only sound. Carefully, we listen for any sign of the cartel members outside. The voices grow fainter, their words blending with the sounds of the jungle until silence takes over. Relief floods through me, mirrored in Maddison's slight exhale beside me. Trying to connect with the rest of the team, I fiddle with the radio, but it's no use. The signal just won't break through the dense foliage and rocky barriers of our makeshift sanctuary. Frustration mounts as I tap the device, willing it to work. Maddison watches, her brow arching in amusement. "You're gonna break it if you keep that up," she quips, a playful spark in her eyes. "It worked fine before we decided to take a detour through Rock Central," I retort, glancing at the wrecked bike in my mind's eye. "Oh, so now the crash is my fault?" she fires back, the corners of her mouth twitching. I can't help but respond, the tension between us shifting. "Well, if the driver would keep her eyes on the road—" "That driver saved your ass back there," she counters, stepping closer, her voice lowering. Playfully. "Really, a driver is only as good as her navigator," she shoots back with a raised eyebrow, stepping closer, her tone teasing but charged. "Guess we're lucky we make a good team then," I reply, the space between us diminishing with each verbal volley. "You! Lucky!" she laughs, her voice low and husky, inches from my face. "I'd say I'm the lucky One, having a partner who can't stay on his side of the vehicle. Our laughter mingles, the sound echoing off the cave walls, and suddenly the atmosphere shifts from playful to charged. We're close now, closer than before, caught in the tension of our own making. Our eyes lock, and everything unspoken seems to simmer to the surface. Maybe we should focus on navigation, I suggest, my voice a whisper. Or maybe, she trails off, her breath mingling with mine. We've found exactly where we need to be. That's all it takes. The last barrier breaks, and our lips crash together in a fierce, passionate kiss that erases all thoughts of radios, caves, and cartel chases. In that moment, there's just the heat, the urgency, and the undeniable connection that pulls us deeper into the intensity of now.
Chapter 11. Maddison. The second our lips meet, it's like a dam bursting. Alex kisses me hard, his mouth insistent and full of need, and I kiss him back with equal fervor. His lips are soft yet demanding, coaxing out little gasps and moans as he explores my mouth. He cups my face with one hand while the other roams my body, tracing the curves that he knows so well. It's like he's memorizing me, mapping every inch of skin, and it's driving me absolutely wild. I'm getting wetter by the second, my body, responding to every touch and kiss with a hunger I can't control. Looks like somebody's eager, he teases, his voice a low rumble against my lips as he tugs at the hem of my shirt. Not as eager as you, I retort, running my fingers through his hair and giving it a playful tug. I feel the vibration of his laughter against my chest, and it makes me smile, even as I try to catch my breath. In the dim light of the cave, we peel away each other's clothes, laughing and teasing like it's the most natural thing in the world. My shirt hits the floor, followed quickly by his, revealing those delicious abs that I can't help but admire. You know, I could get used to this view, I say, my eyes raking over his muscular torso. He grins, his hands moving to unclasp my bra. Trust me, the feeling's mutual. I help him shrug off his camo pants, and he does the same with my shorts, both of us finally bare and exposed. Feeling a shiver of anticipation as his hands continue their exploration, each caress leaves a trail of heat in its wake. God, I've missed the feel of you, he whispers, his eyes dark with desire and promise. Ditto, I reply, pulling him back in for another searing kiss as the world around us fades away, leaving just the two of us and the undeniable pull of passion that refuses to be ignored. The cave air is cool against our heated skin, but I'm not thinking about the temperature right now. I'm only thinking about Alex, the fire in his eyes, and the way his hands grip my hips like he never wants to let go. You do realize we're supposed to be escaping, right? I tease breathlessly, my fingers tracing the lines of his jaw. We'll have to make this quick. He chuckles, his voice low and full of mischief. Good thing I'm a man of action. We can make it work. I laugh, and the sound echoes around us, mixing with the rush of adrenaline and desire coursing through my veins. You're not wrong. Let's make it one to remember. Without another word, he lifts me effortlessly, and I wrap my legs around his waist, feeling the strength in every muscle. He presses me against the rough wall of the cave, and I can feel the hardness of him pressing against me, ready and eager. Ready for me, he murmurs, his lips brushing against my ear, and I nod, biting my lip in. Anticipation. His thick cock glides into me, and I let out a gasp of pleasure as he fills me completely. The sensation is electric, a perfect mix of roughness and tenderness as he starts to move. I hold on tight, my nails digging into his shoulders as he pounds me against the cave wall. The rhythm is frantic, fueled by our urgency and the knowledge that we don't have much time. Each thrust sends a shockwave through me, and I can't help but moan as he takes me deeper. God, you feel so good, Alex growls, his voice dripping with lust. You were made for me. And you're made for me, I manage to gasp, my mind spinning with sensation. The friction is exquisite, and I can feel the tension building within me, coiling tighter and tighter with every thrust. We exchange breathless, dirty words, lost in our own world as the pleasure mounts. Every thrust feels like a wave crashing over me, building the pressure inside until I can hardly stand it. Alex's hands are everywhere, exploring my body with a hunger that matches my own. "You're so fucking perfect," he groans, his voice rough with desire. His hands grip my hips tightly, pulling me closer to him as he thrusts deeper. "And you're so damn good at this," I gasp, barely able to get the words out as the sensations overwhelm me. His cock is hitting all the right spots, driving me wild. "God, I love the way you moan my name," he says, his breath hot against my ear. "Tell me how much you want this." "I want it so bad," I managed to say, my voice trembling with need. "I need you, Alex." He lets out a low growl, picking up the pace, his thrust becoming more urgent. The sound of skin slapping against skin echoes in the cave, mingling with our ragged breathing and the words that spill from our lips. "Fuck, you're incredible," he murmurs, his lips brushing against my neck, sending shivers down my spine. "You take me so well." I can barely respond, too lost in the pleasure to do anything but hold on tight. Every movement sends sparks flying through me, and I know I'm close. "You're gonna come for me, aren't you?" he asks, his tone teasing but commanding. "Yes," I gasp, feeling the tension coiling tighter and tighter. "Please, Alex, don't stop." "I won't," he promises, his voice a low rumble that vibrates through me. "I want to feel you come around me." His words push me closer to the edge, and I feel my body begin to tremble. "Oh God, I'm so close," I moan, my voice breaking with need. "Come for me, Maddison," he urges, his pace relentless, driving me toward the brink with each powerful thrust. "Let me feel it." With a final shattering thrust, the tension inside me snaps, and I come hard, my body shuddering with release. A cry escapes my lips, echoing through the cave as the world blurs around me. "Fuck, that's it," Alex groans, feeling me tighten around him. He follows me over the edge, his warmth spilling inside me as he finds his own release. We cling to each other, lost in the shared ecstasy. And for a moment, nothing else matters but the two of us and the connection we found. "Jesus, that was intense," I murmur breathlessly as we both come down from the high. Alex kisses my shoulder, his breathing still heavy. "You're amazing," he says softly, and I can hear the smile in his voice. I chuckle, feeling the aftershocks of pleasure still pulsing through me. I could get used to this kind of escape plan. He laughs, a deep, satisfied sound that makes my heart flutter. "Me too, Mads. Me too." We stay wrapped up in each other for a moment longer, savoring the warmth and closeness before reality starts to seep back in. The world is still waiting outside the cave, but right now, I'm perfectly content where I am. As we scramble to get our clothes back on in the cave's dim light, there's an elephant in the room, or rather, the cave, buzzing with all the things we've left unsaid. There's a ton of history between us, and it's hanging in the air, thick and unresolved. But honestly, neither of us seems to know how to kick off that conversation. Just as I'm mentally gearing up to break the ice, Chase's voice crackles through the comms, cutting through the tension. "Can you read me?" he asks, sounding both urgent and a bit too chipper for the situation. Alex, now fully dressed, grabs the comms like it's a lifeline. "Yeah, we read you. Mads and I are. Okay, just laying low." "That's good to hear," Chase replies, relief evident in his voice. "The workers from both camps have been evacuated. Now it's down to you two." He doesn't stop there, though. "We've got a bead on your tracker, and we're moving to your location. But there's a hitch. The cartel is hot on your trail, too." Right on cue, the sound of Spanish chatter drifts into our makeshift sanctuary, disturbingly close. They're definitely on the move, and by the sounds of it, they're not here to join us for a friendly chat. Alex shoots me a look that says it all. "Game time." "Looks like our break is over," he murmurs. I can't help but quip back, "Well, so much for postcoital bliss." But the smirk barely has time to play on my lips before we're both on our feet. Survival mode snapping back like we never missed a beat.
Chapter 12. Alex. As the distant chatter of the cartel members grows louder, signaling their approach, I check my weapon, ensuring it's ready for what's coming. The cave has given us a defensible position, its narrow entrance and natural cover providing a tactical advantage we desperately need. I turn to Maddison, making sure she's equally prepared. "You still got your gun?" I ask, needing to confirm every variable under our control. She pulls it from her side, a determined glint in her eyes. "Got it, and I know how to use it," she responds, her tone steady and confident. "Good," I nod, feeling a surge of reassurance. "The name of the game is to stay behind cover and hold the fort until the cavalry arrives." I scan the cave entrance, planning our fields of fire. Maddison slides into position beside me, her movements smooth and practiced. "I'm ready," she says, her voice low but fierce. We set ourselves behind a natural rock formation at the cave's entrance, using it as an impromptu barricade. As the first of the cartel members come into view, weaving through the trees with their guns drawn, the reality of our situation sharpens into focus. I grip my weapon tighter, ready to defend our position. "Hold steady," I murmur to Maddison. "Let them come to us." Our eyes meet for a moment, acknowledgement and trust passing silently between us as we prepare to face the onslaught together. The cartel members burst through the underbrush, unleashing a barrage of gunfire as they close in on our cave. The air fills with the deafening roar of our returning shots. Maddison and I immediately engage, our backs against the cave wall. We sink into a fluid rhythm, communicating with quick nods and brief shouts, each volley of our return fire designed to keep the attackers at bay. Amidst the intense exchange, our banter sharpens our focus. "Keep your head down!" First, shout to Maddison, squeezing off another round. "Don't make me cover your ass too much out here." Maddison fires back a shot, then quips, "Just making sure you're not getting rusty, old man." Her voice carries a mix of stress and humor. Then, in a serious tone, she adds, "Let's not leave our son orphaned today, okay?" Her eyes flash with a sudden intensity as she realizes the slip in her words, and my mind races. "What?" But before we can unravel that thread, the cartel leader emerges from the shadows, rifle aimed and ready, his arrival ramping up the danger. Maddison points urgently at the figure, stepping forward with menacing intent. "That's Marco!" she shouts, her voice tense. "The prick in charge of all this!" Before I can even process the threat fully, Marco raises his rifle, his eyes locked on Maddison. Instinct kicks in. I lunge towards her, my body acting on its own accord. As I shove Maddison behind me, 2 rounds rip through my back. The impact feels like giant fists pummeling into me, forcing the air from my lungs. "Maddison!" screams, her voice piercing the air. Pain blurs my vision, but anger sharpens my focus. Gritting my teeth, I twist around, raising my own weapon. Through the haze of agony, I take aim and squeeze the trigger. The shot cracks sharply, a perfect hit. Marco's head snaps back, a bullet hole right between his eyes. He drops like a stone. Panic erupts among the remaining cartel members. They scatter, their leader down. There, command structure shattered in an instant. But before they can regroup or flee, another sound cuts through the chaos, the thumping beat of helicopter blades slicing through the air. I slump slightly, the pain in my back a fiery brand, but the sound of the approaching chopper injects a surge of hope. Reinforcements are here. Despite the agony, a grim smile touches my lips. We've held on long enough, and now help is literally on the horizon. Then I'm out like a light. As consciousness seeps back into my world, the steady throb of helicopter blades fills my ears, and the gentle sway tells me we're airborne. Below, the vast expanse of the jungle stretches out, a tapestry of endless green. Inside the chopper, Tristan, Austin, Chase, and Maddison are all here, their faces etched with relief as they notice my eyes opening. "What happened?" I managed to croak out, the events before my blackout a jumbled mess in my mind. Tristan lets out a laugh, the sound booming over the roar of the helicopter. "We had to haul your unconscious ass onto a helicopter, that's what," he jokes, but his eyes are warm with genuine concern. Austin chimes in, a serious note underpinning his usual calm demeanor. "You're damn lucky you had your vest on," he says, and I feel a pang of gratitude for the protective gear that absorbed the worst of the shots. Beside me, Maddison takes my hand, her grip tight and reassuring. "You saved my life," she says softly, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity that sends a wave of emotion through me. Tristan adds with a grin, "Mission was a complete success, thanks to you two." Holding Madison's hand, I let their words sink in, the pain in my back a dull reminder of the price paid. As the helicopter cuts through the dawn sky, the sunrise spills across the horizon, bathing the jungle in golden light. My heart swells with love and relief as I watch the gorgeous sunrise, Maddison by my side, and our friends safe. The moment feels profoundly perfect.
Chapter 13. Maddison. As the helicopter touches down at the safe house, the ground feels like a solid, reassuring friend after the unsettling whir of the blades. Right there to welcome us is the Admiral himself, my dad, looking every bit the imposing figure he is, but with an unmistakable relief softening his, usually stern features. He strides up to me as soon as I step off and envelops me in one of his signature bear hugs that could probably rival a hydraulic press. Pulling back, I catch a glimmer in his eyes and can't help but tease him. "Is that a tear, Dad? Didn't think you were the sentimental type." He quickly brushes his cheek, dismissing it with a gruff chuckle. "It's just that humid Costa Rican air," he shoots back, his voice rough like sandpaper but his eyes betraying his relief. "So goddamn glad you're safe, Maddie." He then turns from doting father to no-nonsense Admiral in a heartbeat, addressing the team with that commanding tone that sent shivers down many a spine. "Right now's as good a time for a debriefing as any," he declares, clearly ready to switch gears and get down to business. We all exchange looks, our bodies still thrumming with the remnants of adrenaline. Gathering around him, we prepare to dive into the debrief, ready to unpack the wild events while they're fresh in our minds. Even though we're all drained, there's no rest for the wicked, not yet. As we file into the safe house, Jamie's already there waiting to greet us with a grin so big it almost looks like he won the lottery. "Congrats, team," he cheers, throwing out high fives like they're going out of style. Alex, still looking a bit rough from his ordeal, manages a weak smile, but his eyes, sharp as ever, tell me he's still very much in the fight. The Admiral steps forward, his usual stern expression giving way to a rare, genuine smile. "This mission was a resounding success," he starts, his voice thick with both relief and pride. "Every worker was rescued. We've broken the backbone of the southern wolves. And most importantly, I have my little girl safe and sound." Alex, not missing a beat even with his injuries, pipes up with a smirk. After watching her take on those cartel goons, calling her little girl doesn't quite fit anymore. More like a shield maiden, if you ask me. Laughter ripples through the room, and even the Admiral can't help but crack a smile. He clears his throat, regaining his composure as he looks around at us all. "We'll do a full debrief back in the States," he announces. "But for now, I think you've all earned a bit of R&R before we head home tomorrow." His gaze softens as he adds a sincere, "Thank you, everyone, for what you've done." There's a momentary catch in his voice, a rare show of emotion from the old man. But just like that, it's gone, and he's dismissing us with a firm nod, the ever-steady Admiral to the end. The guys are all revved up about heading into town for some well-deserved celebratory drinks, but Alex hangs back, a serious look on his face. "I'm going to stay here. Mads and I need to talk," he says. The Admiral gives us a look as he leaves, one that lingers on Alex and makes it clear he's still the protective dad he's always been. My stomach knots up at his words. I know exactly what this is about, and it's not just any light-hearted chat. As the door closes behind the departing team, leaving us alone, Alex turns to me, his expression intense. "Our son?" I close my eyes for a moment, taking in a deep breath, gathering my courage. This is the moment I've dreaded and needed in equal measure. Opening my eyes, I meet his gaze, steadying myself. "We have a son, his name is Patrick, and..." I pause, my voice trembling just a bit. He has your eyes. Alex looks like he's been hit by a truck. Without a word, he sinks down onto the couch, staring blankly into the distance as he tries to process the bombshell I've just dropped. I sit down next to him, close enough to offer support, far enough to give him space to think. After a long, heavy silence, he finally speaks. Why didn't you tell me? His voice is low, hurt. I sigh, feeling the weight of the past between us. Things were tough between us, and you were always away on one mission after another. Before I knew it, a year had gone by. It just never seemed like the right time. My explanation sounds feeble even to my ears, but it's the truth, the messy, complicated truth of our lives. Are you mad at me? I ask, my voice edging into defensive territory despite my best efforts to. Keep it cool, I shrug slightly, adding, I wouldn't blame you if you were. Alex lets out a long sigh, his eyes never leaving mine. No, he says firmly, shaking his head. No way I could be mad at the mother of my boy. His voice softens, and there's this strange, gentle look in his eyes that I'm not used to seeing. It throws me a bit off balance. He turns fully towards me, his expression serious. I wasn't there for you when you needed me the most, during the pregnancy, those first months after Patrick was born. He pauses, his jaw tightening. I'll never forgive myself for that. I reach out, taking his hand, needing to bridge the gap between us. I had my family, I tell him, trying to ease the burden I see settling on his shoulders. They were more than enough support. We managed. But Alex sits up, his resolve hardening as he speaks. I'm going to be there for you and Patrick. From now on. Whether or not we're a couple, that doesn't change things. I'm going to do right by my boy. His tone brooks no argument, filled with a determination that's pure Alex. Looking into his eyes, there's no doubt in my mind that he means every word. Shyly, I look up at him, biting my lip before I muster the courage to ask, What do you want, Alex? He clears his throat, his gaze fixing on something distant before meeting mine again, like he's organizing his thoughts into the confession that's been brewing for ages. I've been a damn fool, he starts, his voice heavy with regret. I let you go, got too wrapped up in work, too overwhelmed by how strongly I felt about you. First, didn't know what to do with that intensity. I was scared, like a damn kid. There's a raw honesty in his eyes that pins me in place. He looks at me with such determination. Now it's almost palpable. I know we both made mistakes, he continues. But I know without a doubt that I want you more than anything. I want us to be back together. His voice softens, the edges tinged with emotion. I love you like crazy, Maddison. Hearing him lay it all out, the words I've secretly longed to hear, stirs a whirlwind of emotions inside me. His confession, earnest and heartfelt, breaks down the last walls I've built around my heart. Now it's my turn to open up. I take a deep breath, mirroring his honesty. I was scared of my feelings, unsure how to handle them. I retreated into my work, tried to hide behind my camera. I chuckle, a bit bitterly. And look where that got me. Kidnapped by a damn cartel. We both laugh at that, the absurdity of our situations making the humor dark, but real. Alex's expression softens, the corners of his eyes crinkling in that familiar way that always made my heart skip. I'm ready to give it another shot if you are, he says, his voice gentle yet earnest. You're damn right I am, I shoot back with a grin, feeling a surge of hope and excitement at the prospect of us, together again. Without another word, we lean into each other, our lips crashing together in a kiss that promises everything. It's hard and deep, a mingling of all the passion and longing we've pent up. Our lips move in a fervent, desperate rhythm, each kiss a reaffirmation of our feelings. Alex's hands cup my face, pulling me closer as if he's trying to communicate every unsaid word. Through the press of his lips against mine, in the heat of the moment, my hands go to his shirt, fumbling with the buttons in my haste. Help. Me out here, Seal, I murmur against his lips, my fingers tugging impatiently. He chuckles, low and rumbling, before he yanks the fabric over his head, revealing that chiseled body I can't get enough of. I trail my fingers down his chest, marveling at the way his muscles ripple under my touch. Your turn, he says, eyes glinting with mischief as he reaches for my top, peeling it off with practiced ease. His hands are everywhere, tracing the curve of my waist, sliding up to cut my breasts through my bra. I arch into his touch, a soft moan escaping my lips. I've missed this, I admit, my voice breathy. As I reach around to unclasp my bra, letting it fall to the floor, his gaze is molten, dark with desire, as he takes in the sight of me bare-chested before him. God, you're beautiful, he growls, diving in to capture one nipple between his lips, sucking and teasing until I'm writhing against him. My fingers work at his belt, tugging it free before pushing his jeans down over his hips. His cock springs free, hard and ready, and I can't help but give it a teasing stroke. He groans, the sound vibrating against my skin, sending shivers down my spine. Enough teasing, he murmurs, his voice thick with lust. His hands hook into the waistband of my shorts, and together we make quick work of removing them, tossing them aside like yesterday's news. Now completely naked, I feel his heat against me, his skin burning against mine. We're pressed. So close, I can feel the thud of his heart mirroring my own. Alex lifts me with ease, positioning me so I'm straddling his lap, my legs wrapping around his waist. I grind against him, feeling the slickness between my thighs and the delicious friction of his cock. Sliding against me, his hands find my hips, guiding me, and I let out a shaky breath. Ready for more, he asks, and there's a teasing edge to his voice that makes me grin. Always, I reply, rolling my hips with purpose, savoring the way his eyes darken with desire. With a swift motion, he positions himself at my entrance, teasing me with just the tip. I rock, forward, eager to take him in, but he holds back, drawing out the anticipation until I'm practically begging. Please, Alex, I whisper, meeting his gaze with a mix of frustration and need. Finally, he thrusts upward, filling me in one smooth motion, and I gasp at the fullness, the perfect stretch as he slides deeper. My head falls back, overwhelmed by the sensation of him inside me, thick and unyielding. Fuck, you feel amazing, he groans, setting a rhythm that's both punishing and perfect, each thrust sending a jolt of pleasure through me. We move together, a slick, sensual dance that has us both panting, lost in the raw intensity of the moment. His hands explore my body with a familiarity that's intoxicating, fingers digging into my skin as I ride him, lost in the primal pleasure. I cling to him, my nails scoring his shoulders as the tension builds, tighter and tighter until I can barely breathe. His dirty words spill over me, promising everything, urging me toward release. Come for me, Mads, he commands, his voice a growl that sends me over the edge. With a cry, I shatter around him, my body pulsing with pleasure as my orgasm crashes over me in waves. He follows, his hips bucking wildly as he comes inside me, filling me with warmth and leaving us both breathless and spent. As we cling to each other, the world around us fades away, leaving just the two of us tangled together, basking in the afterglow of our shared release, lying together in the peaceful aftermath of our passionate reunion. The room fills with our soft, I love yous, but there's something I need to show him. Hold on, I need to grab something from my bag, I announce, pulling away from the cozy tangle of sheets. As I get up, Alex gives my butt a cheeky swat that sends me into a burst of laughter. I dig through my bag, fishing out my phone and something else. I power up the phone, tapping through to my photos. Turning around, I hold the phone out to Alex, showing him the array of pictures of Patrick. Watching Alex's face as he sees his son for the first time is something I'll never forget. His eyes instantly mist over, but he quickly wipes away the tears, trying to play it cool. He's beautiful, he manages to say, his voice cracking just a bit with emotion. Can't wait to meet him. I can't help but tease him as I slide back into bed, nudging him gently with my elbow. Gonna be a bit of a softie, huh? I say, with a smirk, handing him the phone so he can see more photos. We lean in close, sharing the warm glow of the screen, our fingers occasionally touching as we flip through more pictures. He catches my eye with a mischievous glint. There's something I need to show you, he says, his voice tinged with a hint of mystery. Color me intrigued. As he swings his legs out of bed, I seize the opportunity and deliver a playful swat to his perfectly sculpted rear. He laughs, the sound rich and warm in the quiet room, as he heads over to where his gear is piled. He rummages briefly before pulling out a small box. My heart skips a beat when I see it. Suddenly, the air between us feels charged with anticipation. He turns, holding the box out to me with nervous excitement that I've rarely seen in him. It's something I've had for you, but never knew the right time to give it, he confesses as he opens the box to reveal a gorgeous ring sparkling inside. The sight of it steals my breath away. Tears well up in my eyes as the reality of the moment sinks in. Yes, I whisper, without a moment's hesitation, slipping the ring onto my finger. It fits perfectly, as if it was always meant to be there. We share a kiss, deep and resonant with the promise of a future together. Pulling back slightly, I smile up at him, a playful sparkle in my tear-filled eyes. I've got one more thing to reveal. He raises an eyebrow, his curiosity piqued. I reach for the marriage certificate I'd taken out of my bag earlier. You know the saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, I begin, watching his reaction closely. Yeah, he responds, a note of confusion in his voice. Well, what happens in Sydney stays in Sydney, I continue, holding up the certificate with a grin. It turns out there are exceptions to every rule.
Epilogue, Alex. 6 months later, standing at the altar, the weight of the moment settles on my shoulders like a comfortable armor, the kind I've worn for years, but never quite like this. As I face Maddison, my heart hammers with a mix of nerves and excitement. I take a deep breath, our eyes lock, and everything else fades into the background. It's just us, here and now, with words that carry the weight of everything we've been through. Maddison, I start, my voice steady despite the butterflies rioting in my stomach. From the moment we met, you've challenged me, inspired me, and loved me in ways I didn't even know I needed. You've been my fiercest ally, my trusted confidant, and the love of my life, even when we were worlds apart. I pause, my gaze drifting briefly to the crowd of damn near 200. Most are in dress white, navy uniforms. My family's here too, my mom and dad, Bob and Sandy, and my teenage kid sister, Emily. They couldn't look happier that I'm finally tying the knot to a woman like Maddison. And among the crowd sit my brothers in arms, Tristan, Austin, Chase, and Jamie, there, faces brimming with pride. Nearby, the Admiral and his wife, their expressions a mixture of joy and solemnity. And then there's Patrick, our beautiful boy, whose presence completes this picture, his small hand clutched in his grandmother's. Turning back to Maddison, I continue. In this journey, with all its ups and downs, I promise to always fight for us, to cherish and respect you, and to love you more each day than I did the day before. I vow not just to grow old with you, but to grow with you each step of our path forward. As I finish, the nervousness gives way to a profound certainty. I'm right where I need to be. Now it's Maddison's turn, and as she steps forward, her eyes sparkle with that blend of sweetness and mischief that first captured my heart. She takes a deep breath, her presence commanding the attention of everyone gathered. Alex, she begins, her voice clear and strong. Who knew that when I signed up for a date? With you, I was signing up for the adventure of a lifetime. You've been my anchor and my challenge, the calm in my storm, and the storm itself. A playful grin tugs at her lips, and I can't help but smirk back. You've shown me that love isn't just about sharing quiet moments, but about weathering the wild ones together. With you, I've learned to be braver, to laugh louder, and to live fuller. I promise to keep our life spicy, to support you, to challenge you, and to cherish every moment with you, no matter what. As she finishes, there's a brief pause, a flicker of something else in her eyes. Then, suddenly, she beams out at the crowd, her voice ringing out, and to add to that adventure, we're pregnant! The announcement sends a wave of cheers through the crowd, turning the ceremony into a lively celebration in an instant. I can't help but cheer too, surprised and overwhelmed with happiness as I shout, "Hell yeah!" The priest smiles, his voice steady and warm as he brings the ceremony back to its purpose amidst the uproar. "Alex, do you take Maddison to be your lawfully wedded wife, to live together in marriage, to love her, comfort her, honor and keep her in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be faithful only to her for as long as you both shall live?" I meet Maddison's gaze, feeling the weight and the wonder of the moment, and respond with all the conviction in my heart, "I do." The priest turns to Maddison, repeating the solemn vow, "And Maddison, do you take Alex to be your lawfully wedded husband, to live together in marriage, to love him, comfort him, honor and keep him in sickness and in health, and forsaking all others, be faithful only to him for as long as you both shall live?" With a joyous light in her eyes and a smile that tells stories of our shared dreams and battles, Maddison replies, "I do." The priest then announces, "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Alex, you may kiss the bride." Without hesitation, I pull Maddison close, our kiss a seal on the promises we've made. The crowd erupts into cheers, their applause echoing around us like a warm embrace. As we break the kiss, Maddison whispers just for me to hear, "I love you." "I love you too," I whisper back, holding her close. The cheers of our friends and family fill the air, celebrating not just our union, but the journey ahead, a future as thrilling as the love that brought us here, the end.